First contact. The Arcturus Dominion's warships emerged from hyperspace like a constellation of artificial stars, their crystalline hulls refracting sunlight across Earth's atmosphere in prismatic waves. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the International Space Defense Station, her dark eyes reflecting the otherworldly display above. 3 decades of military service hadn't prepared her for this moment. "Ma'am, we're detecting energy signatures from over 2,000 vessels," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "Their smallest ship is roughly the size of Manhattan." Chen didn't respond immediately, studying the geometric patterns of the alien fleet. They had arranged themselves in a perfect dodecahedron formation around Earth, a display of precision that spoke volumes about their technological capabilities. "Status of the Sentinel defense grid?" she finally asked. "All orbital platforms responding, Admiral." But Rodriguez hesitated. "Our most powerful weapons would be like throwing pebbles at a mountain." The room fell silent as multiple holographic displays activated simultaneously, projecting an alien figure into the center of the command center. The being stood nearly 8 feet tall, its crystalline exoskeleton pulsing with internal light. When it spoke, its words emerged in perfect English, though no mouth was visible. "People of Earth, I am Nexus Commander Vexthar of the Arcturus Dominion. Your world has been selected for ascension into our collective. Resistance is not only futile but unnecessary. We bring enlightenment, order, and eternal peace." Chen exchanged glances with her senior staff. The words were diplomatic, but the massive fleet told a different story. This wasn't an invitation. It was an ultimatum. "Your species has shown remarkable potential," Vexthar continued. "Your creativity, your constant drive for innovation, though chaotic, has caught our attention. Under our guidance, your civilization will advance millennia within decades. You have 6 Earth hours to prepare your world leaders for integration procedures." The hologram vanished, leaving the command center in tense silence. Chen turned to her communications officer. "Get me the Security Council. All channels, maximum encryption." Within minutes, the station's secure chamber filled with holographic projections of world leaders and military commanders. The usual political rivalries had evaporated in the face of this existential threat. "They're not telling us everything," Chen addressed the assembly. "Our quantum sensors are detecting massive energy buildups within their fleet. They're preparing for something beyond a simple diplomatic exchange. Could they be charging weapons?" The Chinese premier's hologram flickered slightly. "No," Dr. Emily Santos, Earth's leading xenotechnology expert, interjected. "The energy signatures suggest massive computational processes. They're scanning us, analyzing every aspect of our civilization." Chen nodded. "That's not all. Their ships are positioned precisely at gravitational nodes around our planet. This isn't just a show of force. They're creating some kind of field around Earth." The Russian president leaned forward. "A containment grid." "Most likely," Santos confirmed. "But here's what's interesting. They're using incredibly complex systems for relatively simple operations. Their technology is advanced, yes, but it's also rigid, over-engineered." Chen felt a familiar sensation growing in her gut. The same feeling she'd had before turning the tide in the Taiwan Strait crisis of 2039. They expect us to be impressed by their technology, to be paralyzed by their superiority. But they're showing us too much, trying too hard to demonstrate their power. "What are you suggesting, Admiral?" the U.S. President asked. "That we look closer at what they're not showing us." "Dr. Santos, you mentioned their systems are rigid. Explain." Santos pulled up several data streams. "Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it follows strict patterns. Everything is crystalline, mathematically perfect. There's no redundancy, no improvisation. It's like they've evolved beyond the need for backup systems or alternative solutions. Because they've never failed," Chen realized. "They're so advanced, they've forgotten what it's like to adapt, to face the unexpected." She turned to address all the leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 6 hours before they expect our surrender. I suggest we show them why humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to do the unexpected. As the leaders began discussing strategies, Chen looked back at the alien fleet. Their perfect formation, their crystalline ships, their absolute confidence, it all spoke of a civilization that had forgotten what it meant to face real challenges. They had come expecting to find primitives, but they would soon learn that humanity's apparent technological inferiority masked a different kind of strength. The next 6 hours would determine Earth's fate, but for the first time since the fleet's arrival, Admiral Chen felt a spark of hope. Sometimes, the greatest advantage wasn't having the most advanced technology. It was knowing how to think outside the perfect crystalline box. Hidden strengths. Dr. Emily Santos stood in her underground laboratory beneath the Chilean Andes, surrounded by holographic displays showing the Arcturus fleet's energy patterns. What others saw as an impenetrable wall of alien technology, she saw as a tapestry of data waiting to be unraveled. "Play it again," she instructed her AI assistant. "Focus on their response to our satellite diagnostics." The hologram replayed the moment when Earth's communication satellites had performed routine system checks. The alien ship's energy fields had flickered, almost imperceptibly, but enough to catch her attention. "Freeze," she commanded. "Magnify section Delta 7. Her eyes widened as the pattern became clear. "Get me Admiral Chen. Now." In orbit, aboard the Space Defense Station, Chen was reviewing evacuation protocols when Santos' call came through. The scientist's usually composed face showed barely contained excitement. "Admiral, they're not just over-engineered. They're overcautious. Look at this." Santos shared her screen, showing complex energy patterns. "Every time we transmit anything, their shields automatically adjust to counter potential threats. But here's the thing. They're expending massive amounts of energy to swat flies." Chen leaned closer to her display. "Explain." "Their defensive systems are designed to counter highly advanced weapons, quantum torpedoes, gravitic disruptors, things we can barely theorize about. But they've optimized so far in that direction that dealing with simpler threats actually strains their systems. Like trying to catch a mosquito with tweezers," Chen mused. "Exactly. And there's more." Santos pulled up another diagram. "Their computational networks are incredible, processing power that makes our quantum computers look like pocket calculators. But they're all connected, all synchronized. They don't just share information, they share consciousness. A weakness. Potentially their biggest. They think as one, act as one. Perfect coordination. But," Santos paused for effect, "no capability for independent action. No improvisation." Chen's military mind immediately grasped the implications. If we could disrupt their network, they'd be like a body without a nervous system. All that power, but no way to coordinate it. The Admiral opened a secure channel to the Global Military Command. Within minutes, leaders from every major military power were connected. "We've found something," Chen announced. "Dr. Santos, show them." As Santos explained her discoveries, proposals began flowing in. The Russian military suggested using their old radio interference systems, technology so archaic the aliens might not even recognize it as a threat. Chinese hackers offered to launch coordinated cyber attacks using deliberately primitive codes that might slip through the aliens' advanced defenses. "Their biggest advantage is also their greatest weakness," Santos concluded. "They're too perfect, too evolved. They've optimized their way into a corner." Chen turned to her tactical display, studying the crystalline fleet above. "How long would it take to modify our old electronic warfare systems? Not to upgrade them, to downgrade them." "Hours, maybe less," Santos replied. "They're expecting future tech, not past tech. Then let's give them something they're not expecting." Chen addressed the assembled leaders. "Ladies and gentlemen, I propose Operation Retrograde. We fight tomorrow's war with yesterday's weapons." As the command center erupted into activity, Chen received an urgent message. The alien commander, Vexthar, was requesting another audience. The holographic figure materialized, its crystalline form shimming with barely contained irritation. Your species continues to engage in unauthorized communications and energy emissions, it stated. This behavior is disruptive to the integration process. Cease these activities immediately. Chen stood straight, meeting the alien's gaze. We're simply maintaining our basic systems, Commander. Surely a civilization as advanced as yours can tolerate our primitive technology. Something flickered across Vexthar's crystalline features. Was it uncertainty? Your compliance is mandatory. The integration will proceed as planned. After the alien disappeared, Santos turned to Chen. Did you see that? When you mentioned primitive technology. I did. For a moment, the most advanced being in our solar system looked worried about cave tools. Chen smiled grimly. Get everyone ready. We have 4 hours left, and I want every obsolete piece of technology we own ready to cause chaos. As her orders spread across the globe, Chen watched the alien fleet's perfect formation. They had come expecting to find primitives, only to be faced with a species that understood something they'd forgotten. True advancement wasn't about abandoning the old, but about knowing when to use every tool at your disposal. In labs and military bases worldwide, humanity began preparing its response. Sometimes the best way forward was to take a step back, and Earth was about to remind the cosmos that primitive didn't mean powerless. The network. In the sprawling underground facility beneath Silicon Valley, Dr. Marcus Zhang watched as thousands of ancient computer systems whirred to life. Commodore 64s, Apple IAs, and even vacuum tube computers from the 1950s lined the walls. A museum of obsolete technology transformed into humanity's most unconventional weapon. The world's first botnet made entirely of museum pieces, he muttered, fingers dancing across a modern terminal. Never thought I'd see the day. On screens worldwide, Operation Retrograde was taking shape. Every piece of outdated technology, every archaic transmission system, every forgotten communication protocol was being brought online. The plan wasn't just to fight back. It was to create chaos in the most ordered system the galaxy had ever seen. Network status. Admiral Chen's voice crackled through a deliberately antiquated radio system. You're not going to believe this, John replied. The Commodore 64s are actually connecting to their systems. Their defenses are so advanced, they don't even recognize these as computers. It's like trying to catch smoke with a force field. In orbit, the crystalline ships of the Arcturus fleet continued their perfect geometric formation, unaware that humanity's digital archaeological dig was about to change everything. Time check. Chen broadcast globally. 1 hour until their deadline. Status reports. The responses came in from around the world, deliberately transmitted through everything from AM radio to dial-up modems. Radio Moscow standing by, broadcasting on frequencies not used since 1991. Our PAN-ET protocol's active. They're treating it like background radiation. Ham radio operators worldwide ready to transmit. Shortwave network operational. Dr. Santos's voice cut through the chatter. Admiral, you need to see this. Their ships, they're starting to respond to our transmissions, but not how we expected. The alien fleet's perfect formation was showing subtle signs of strain. Their crystalline hulls, designed to channel and process vast amounts of computational data, were being forced to analyze countless primitive signals they couldn't ignore, but also couldn't properly categorize. It's working, Santos continued, excitement building in her voice. Their neural network can't differentiate between potential threats and background noise. They have to analyze everything, and they're doing it with the computational equivalent of a quantum supercomputer trying to run a calculator app. Suddenly, the familiar hologram of Nexus Commander Vexthar appeared, but something was different. The usually smooth crystalline form flickered, its perfect symmetry disturbed. Your primitive emissions are interfering with integration procedures, it announced, its normally fluid voice showing signs of digital distortion. This is inefficient. Explain your purpose. Chen stepped forward, carefully maintaining a neutral expression. We apologize for any inconvenience, Commander. We're simply maintaining our basic communication infrastructure. Perhaps your advanced systems are more sensitive to our primitive technology than anticipated. The alien commander's form flickered again. Impossible. Our systems are perfect. You're primitive. It paused, its crystalline structure briefly fragmenting. Methods are irrelevant. But they weren't irrelevant. Across Earth, humanity's technological past was becoming its strongest weapon. Every outdated protocol, every obsolete system, every piece of primitive technology was forcing the aliens' perfect network to spread itself thinner and thinner. Phase 2. Chen ordered as soon as Vexthar's hologram vanished. Dr. Zhang, initiate the basic attack. Zhang grinned as he typed the command. Across the globe, thousands of ancient computers began running simple basic programs, each one generating unique, unpredictable patterns of data that the alien systems were forced to process. They built their defenses to stop digital artillery, Zhang explained as he watched the alien network strain. Instead, we're hitting them with 1 million digital spitwads. Their systems can't ignore any potential threat, no matter how small. In orbit, the perfect geometric formation of the Arcturus fleet began to waver. Ships moved microscopically out of alignment as their shared network struggled to process the flood of primitive data. It was like watching a supercomputer crash while trying to play Pong. Admiral, Santos called out urgently. Their power signatures are fluctuating. The network connecting their ships, it's starting to show gaps. Chen watched the tactical display, where the alien fleet's perfect dodecahedron was beginning to show signs of stress. Humanity hadn't launched a single missile or fired a single shot, but they were already causing more disruption than any advanced weapon could have achieved. All stations, she broadcast, increase transmission rates. Let's show the Arcturus Dominion why sometimes the best path forward is a step backward. As Earth's technological past rose up to challenge humanity's would-be conquerors, Chen allowed herself a small smile. The aliens had expected to find primitives, but they were about to learn that true sophistication wasn't about abandoning the past. It was about knowing how to use every tool at your disposal, no matter how simple it might seem. Operation Earthrise. The perfect geometry of the Arcturus fleet had degraded into barely controlled chaos. Their crystalline ships, once arranged in flawless formation, now drifted in irregular patterns as their shared network struggled to process the flood of primitive data assaulting their systems. Admiral Chen watched from the Space Defense Station as humanity's most improbable defense strategy unfolded. Status of Operation Earthrise. Better than we could have hoped, Dr. Santos reported, her eyes fixed on the energy readings. Their network is experiencing cascading disruptions. Every time they adapt to one form of interference, we hit them with something even more archaic. They're trying to swat mosquitoes with a quantum cannon, and it's burning through their computational resources. From his underground facility, Dr. Zhang's voice crackled through an old radio. You're going to love this, Admiral. We just launched Phase 3. The Commodore 64s are now running different versions of Pong, each slightly modified to generate unique data patterns. Their systems are trying to analyze each game as a potential combat simulation. On the main display, several alien ships visibly shuddered, their crystalline surfaces rippling as they struggled to process the absurd amount of irrelevant data. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Rodriguez called out, "we're detecting massive power fluctuations in their containment grid. The network disruption is affecting their ability to maintain formation." The hologram of Nexus Commander Vexthar appeared again, but this time its perfect crystalline form was distinctly unstable, fragments of its image breaking apart and reforming continuously. "You're primitive. Interference." The alien's voice distorted. "Must cease. You cannot comprehend the damage, the inefficiency." Chen stepped forward. "Actually, Commander, we comprehend perfectly. Your network is highly advanced. Too advanced. You've optimized your systems to handle complex threats, but simple ones, they're like sand in your gears. The alien commander's form flickered violently. Impossible. Primitives cannot. Systems are perfect. Perfect isn't always better, Chen replied calmly. While you were evolving beyond the need for redundancy and improvisation, we kept everything. Every obsolete system, every outdated protocol. They're all part of our history, our strength. We didn't abandon our past. We built upon it. Suddenly, alerts blared across the command center. The alien fleet's formation was breaking down completely. Ships began moving erratically as their shared consciousness fragmented under the strain of processing countless streams of primitive data. Now, Chen ordered, Dr. Zhang, initiate the final phase. Across Earth, every piece of ancient technology still functioning sprang into action. Atari consoles ran modified games, dot matrix printers spewed endless streams of random characters, and thousands of fax machines began sending signals into space. The coordinated assault of archaic technology proved too much for the aliens' over-evolved systems. The effect was spectacular. The crystalline ships, their perfect symmetry shattered, began moving independently for the first time. Without their unified network, each vessel was forced to operate on its own, something they hadn't done in thousands of years. Admiral, Santos called out excitedly. Their ships are starting to power down non-essential systems. They're trying to preserve their core functions by isolating themselves from the network. But their entire civilization is built on that connection. They don't know how to function without it. Vexthar's hologram appeared one final time, its form barely holding together. This primitive chaos. How? Our simulations, our predictions. That's your problem, Chen replied. You can't simulate chaos. You can't predict the unpredictable. Your civilization advanced so far that you forgot one crucial truth. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. The alien commander's image stabilized briefly, its crystalline features showing something close to realization. You planned this. Used your primitive technology as a weapon. We used everything at our disposal, Chen corrected. That's what you forgot how to do. In trying to achieve perfection, you lost adaptability. In advancing beyond your past, you became vulnerable to it. As the alien fleet struggled to maintain cohesion, humanity's improbable victory began to take shape. They hadn't won with advanced weapons or superior technology. They had won by understanding that true strength lay not in abandoning the past, but in knowing how to use every tool, every system, every piece of knowledge at their disposal, no matter how primitive it might seem. The perfect empire was being undone by the very imperfection they had sought to eliminate from the galaxy. And as their ships began to withdraw, breaking their containment grid around Earth, it became clear that humanity had taught the Arcturus Dominion a lesson they wouldn't soon forget. Sometimes the most powerful force in the universe isn't perfection. It's the ability to embrace chaos and turn it into strength. Breaking dawn. 3 days after the Arcturus fleet's retreat, Admiral Chen stood in the United Nations General Assembly, addressing representatives from every nation on Earth. The massive chamber was packed, with billions more watching the broadcast worldwide. What we achieved wasn't just a victory over superior technology, she began, her voice carrying across the silent hall. We proved that advancement isn't a straight line. That our history, even our outdated technology, remains part of our strength. Behind her, holographic displays showed the remaining Arcturus ships. Only a small contingent remained in orbit, not as conquerors, but as diplomats. Their perfect crystalline formations were gone, replaced by a looser, more adaptable arrangement. Nexus Commander Vexthar is ready to address the assembly, an aide announced. The alien leader's hologram appeared, but it was dramatically different from its first appearance. The rigid crystalline form had been modified, incorporating organic-looking elements that allowed for more fluid movement. People of Earth, Vexthar began, its voice holding a new note of humility. We came to your world believing we would find primitives in need of guidance. Instead, we found teachers. Dr. Santos, seated in the front row with Dr. Zhang, leaned forward as the alien continued. For 10,000 years, the Arcturus Dominion evolved toward what we believed was perfection. We eliminated chaos, redundancy, and what we saw as inefficiency. But in doing so, we also eliminated our ability to adapt, to think independently, to improvise. Murmurs filled the chamber as Vexthar's form shifted, demonstrating the new flexibility in their technology. Your victory was not just about disrupting our network. You showed us that true advancement doesn't mean abandoning the past. Every step in your technological evolution remained part of your arsenal, part of your strength. Chen watched as the alien's crystalline form continued to change, incorporating more organic patterns. The Dominion proposes a new kind of relationship with Earth, not as conquerors or teachers, but as equals. We have much to learn from each other. The assembly erupted in discussion. On screens worldwide, humans watched as their former would-be conquerors demonstrated their first attempts at adaptation. The remaining Arcturus ships were being modified, incorporating redundancies and independent systems alongside their advanced technology. Dr. Zhang turned to Santos, grinning. They're actually running some of their systems on our old computer protocols. Said something about appreciating the elegance of simple solutions. Later, in a private meeting room, Chen sat with Earth's leaders and the newly flexible Vexthar. The alien commander placed a crystalline device on the table, a hybrid of their advanced technology and Earth's primitive systems. We have begun implementing what we call the Earth Protocol across our civilization, Vexthar explained. Instead of replacing old systems, we are learning to integrate them. The chaos you introduced to our network wasn't just disruption, it was evolution. Chen nodded. Sometimes the best way forward is to remember where you came from. Indeed. Vexthar's form shifted again, the crystalline structure now flowing like liquid metal. We have already discovered that incorporating your primitive computational methods actually improves our efficiency. By embracing imperfection, we become stronger. As the meeting continued, reports came in from around the world. The Arcturus Dominion was sharing their advanced technology, but they were also studying Earth's history of innovation, fascinated by humanity's ability to build new solutions upon old foundations. In her final address to the UN that day, Admiral Chen summarized what many were calling the most important lesson in human history. The Arcturus Dominion came to us as perfect beings, offering to elevate us to their level. Instead, we showed them that true perfection isn't about eliminating flaws or abandoning the past. It's about embracing every part of who you are, past and present, primitive and advanced, chaos and order. She gestured to the hybrid technology now being developed between the two civilizations. We stand at the dawn of a new era, not one where humanity reaches for alien perfection, but one where we teach the galaxy that imperfection, our ability to adapt, to improvise, to embrace chaos, might be the greatest strength of all. As the sun set on this new era, Earth's ancient computers continued to run alongside quantum processors, and crystalline ships learned to dance in imperfect formations. Humanity had not just survived an encounter with an advanced civilization. They had changed the very definition of advancement itself. The perfect empire had learned the power of imperfection, and the galaxy would never be the same.